Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority. Tonight we're going to be discussing the Worcester Union Station accessibility and infrastructure improvements. This is a virtual public meeting as we are dealing with the COVID pandemic, as we all know. I will go over the tonight's protocols for the meeting in a little while, but I do understand we may have the Lieutenant Governor on the line. I don't know if that has, we'll wait. Joe, can you let me know if we have the Lieutenant Governor available to say some welcoming remarks?
Yes. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Lieutenant Governor Polito.
Hello. I just wanted to say thank you to the MassDOT team and to the city officials who may also be on the call. It's nice to be able to talk about something that is not related to, fighting COVID and their reopening plans, and to be able to think about the infrastructure that you've been planning and prepping for. It seems like not too long ago we were together at the last briefing, and I'm just really pleased to be able to hear the presentation. And just thank you for your efforts. You've made a lot of progress from the materials that I could see. And I'm looking forward to hearing any public comments that might be shared tonight. I think this is a great effort, and I look forward to listening, and thank you.
Well, thank you, Lieutenant Governor. I know that you and the administration and the whole Metro West delegation have been very supportive of improvements on the Worcester line, and a lot has been done and a lot continues to be done. So with that, we do have other elected officials that we're going to recognize as we get into our question and answer. I thought they'd like the benefit of seeing the PowerPoint first and then getting into those. So we will do that as well. Going on with the PowerPoint, we're going to go the next slide, please. Okay, as we're all aware, and many of them have been working from home and using forums like this and Zoom, etc. An emergency order was issued by the Commonwealth on March 12, 2020, which would allow public bodies greater flexibility in utilizing technology to conduct meetings under the open meeting law. As you know, the plan also requires that there are restrictions on meetings of more than 25 people that was later revised to 10 people together, and the present closure of public buildings to the public. So the MBTA decided to implement remote participation procedures. This virtual webinar is part of that effort. Next slide, please. I need to notify everybody on the call and on this forum that this meeting will be recorded. It's the intention of the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority to retain and perhaps distribute still videos, audio, and the chat transcript. Attendees will be muted and their video will be turned off upon entry. We will open them up as needed during the question and answer period. By continuing with this virtual meeting, you're consenting to participate in a recorded event. The recordings and chat transcript will be considered a public record. If you do not feel comfortable being recorded, please turn off your camera and or mute your microphone or leave the meeting. Next slide, please. Okay, the best practices for tonight's virtual meeting are the following. A question and answer portion will take place at the end of this presentation. If you have any questions during the webinar, if you look down, if you scroll down at the bottom, there's a Q&A area where you can type in a question and they'll be queued up in the order that they are received. And we'll get to all the written questions, I assume. We will also have an opportunity to do live questions also. If you're attending via phone, you can ask a question by dialing *9. This will put you in a queue, and one of our moderators will call out the last 4 digits of your phone number when it is your turn to ask your question. The meeting, as I said, is currently available on the project's website, www.mbta.com Union Station. That's where you can find the PowerPoint if you're on the telephone. The entirety of this webinar recording will be posted to the project's website upon the conclusion of the presentation. Questions can also be submitted to unionstation@mbta.com at any time during this project's duration. Next slide, please. So I'll briefly go over the agenda before I turn it over to the project manager, Maribel Kelly. Maribel will introduce the team, then we'll go over the overall project goals and project overview, what the purpose and need for the improvements are, the benefits to the commuters and the community, go over the existing station layout, and the proposed station layout, the environmental considerations, which there are few, and the project schedule. We'll also go over construction phasing so commuters can understand how they will be impacted during construction, but service will be maintained throughout this project. And then of course, we'll have a back and forth question and answer period. So at this point, with the next slide, I think I am turning it over to Maribel Kelly, the Senior Project Manager for the MBTA for the Worcester Union Station project. Maribel? Did we have Maribel? Maribel,
I apologize. I'm in mute.
Go.
Can you hear me? All right. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody, for attending to this our first virtual meeting within our department. As Joe mentioned, my name is Maribel Kelly. I'm the Senior Project Manager for this project. We have within the MBTA, Anthony Dominicis, who is the Senior Director of Commuter Rail, and Nazanin Mosahebi, our Deputy Chief for Capital Delivery Commuter Rail Programs. We're going to be presenting, our team is going to be presenting today, myself. We have leading HDR, who is our consultant, firm supporting on the design of Worcester Union Station is Eric DiVigilio. Our senior architect, Michael Baskin, our architect, Christopher Smith, and last but not least, Kevin Slattery, engineer specialized in environmental. Can we go to the next slide, please? As we mentioned, this is a project very close to my heart. I feel that Worcester Union Station is our first effort to do multiple and many to come projects to improve Worcester Line, which is one of the highest riderships. Worcester Union Station is going to allow us to open flexibility. So we already went through the goals in previous presentation, but just to refresh, first and foremost, that project goals is accessibility, safety, operational flexibility, sustainability, and resiliency. Next slide, please. The purpose, needs, and benefits for Worcester Union Station: implement accessibility upgrades, which we call ADA upgrades, to fulfill code compliance and requirements. Increase the passenger and overall system safety, improving lighting, clear sidelines, walking lines, and fencing, security cameras. Then we have improved the reliability and resiliency. This is introducing a high-level center platform island that allow 2 trains simultaneously access the platform. And for that purpose, we're also adding a crossover in the tracks to allow the simultaneous movements. Increase the capacity and the operational reliability and flexibility and resiliency for both services, MBTA and Amtrak, not only in the near term, but in the long term. Reduce the station lifecycle maintenance cost and lower the energy consumption. So with the next slide, please. With that said, I'm going to give the post to Chris. He is our architect for Union Station, and he can give us a detail of the project overview. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maribel. With this first slide, this is a project area map, just kind of to help identify the location of our project in relationship to the greater Worcester area. Our project is located adjacent to Union Station, which is item number 1 on the plan, with our platform, which is item 2, extending from Union Station towards the east to the existing MBTA parking lot, which is item number 3. Union Station, as many of you know, is located in downtown Worcester and located within walking distance of some of the popular areas, such as area number 5 to the south, which is the Canal District, and the new Polar Park area number 6, also to the south and the west of the station, as well as City Hall, which is area number 7, and the DCU Center, area number 9. Next slide, please. This is an existing conditions layout, really just to emphasize the fact that the existing platform is only a partial high-level platform, so the only accessible boarding area is directly behind Union Station. And then as the platform extends to the east under I-290, it transitions into a low-level platform. And all of that is adjacent to the existing station track. So it's only a side-mounted, a side platform. So it only allows for one train to enter the station at a time. Next slide, please. Here we're going to talk about the station access. The station platform, again, is going to be a new center island platform, item number 8 on the map, which extends east to west under I-290, with access to the platform at the west side, coming through the station building, on the east side coming from the parking lot. The station building does offer multimodal access, whether that's area number 1, which is the passenger drop-off area in front of the station building, area 2 to the south, which is the existing parking garage, which provides access via an underground tunnel. From Harding Street, area number 3, that's currently where the taxi stand and designated Lyft and Uber pickup areas are. And then area 4 is the existing WRTA, which is the Worcester Regional Transit Authority bus facility for local buses. And then area 5 along Harding Street is for intercity bus connections. On the east end, all of those areas, intermodal transportations will come into the building into area number 6, which is the existing rotunda. And then our project is going to make a new connection, item number 7, which is a new passenger or platform access corridor. This is where we're also going to relocate ticketing to. So all passengers entering the platform from the west side will go through this area, past the ticketing area, will have access to ticketing, and then access the platform via stairs and an elevator, which we'll get to more later. From the east side, coming from the parking lot, all passengers will use stairs and elevator to access the pedestrian bridge, area number 10. On this pedestrian bridge, we'll locate the ticketing as well. So again, passengers accessing the platform from the east side will also have to pass by ticketing. So ticketing, understanding where ticketing is, how to get tickets will be very easy for passengers. Also, one thing to note on this slide, area number 9 is a possible passenger drop-off area at the east end that we're still coordinating with the city of Worcester on for what all modes of transportation will use that as a passenger drop-off. Next slide, please. This is an overall 3D view of the station. I really just want to emphasize here that, again, this is a full-length, high-level platform located between the station track and track 1. So we'll have access to trains on both sides, so it'll allow for 2 trains to enter. And this platform will have a full-length canopy, so coverage for passengers for the full length. Access at the east and west sides we'll get to in a moment. Some existing features are located or identified in black, and the new proposed features are identified with purple. Next slide, please. This is a 3D view of the east end of the platform. Primary focuses here are going to be the access from the new passenger platform access corridor, area number 3, which is in light blue, with access up to the platform via the stairs, item number 4, as well as the elevator, which is in red, and that's item number 1. Next slide, please. This is a rendering of the proposed platform from the existing parking garage roof. One thing to note is these renderings, this one as well as the rest of them, are not finished renderings. You can see, we're showing the Union Station building just as a simple mass, solid gray, solid white. It's really just to give you an idea of the overall feel of the station. Finishes and things of that nature are not, in these renderings, aren't what the final ones will be. Most of those will be typically painted black steel, which is reminiscent of historic train stations to help tie the new platform in with the historic station itself. Another thing to note here is I-290, which you see in the background crossing over the platform, which does create a visual separation between the east and west sides of the station for most views. Next slide, please. This is a rendering from the platform the west end of the platform looking west, with directly in front of you the new stairs going down, which will be protected via an enclosure, and the elevator in the background. Next slide, please. At the east end, this is a 3D view showing the new pedestrian bridge as it crosses over the upper parking lot with access down towards the platform via the stairs, item number 3, as well as the elevator, item number 5. Then on the north end of the bridge, access to the upper and lower parking lots via, again, stairs, item number 9, and an elevator, item number 8. And again, item 16 is the proposed passenger drop-off area at this end of the station. Next slide, please. This is a rendering at the east end of the platform, again, looking east with the stairs up to the pedestrian bridge directly in front of you. You can see the pedestrian bridge as it crosses over the upper parking lot, and towards the left-hand side of the screen, the stairs and elevator as they come down, providing access down to the upper and lower parking lots. Next slide, please. This is a rendering from the upper parking lot. You're standing on the new accessible walkway, which is currently the existing low-level platform, where we're going to put in a new fence to protect passengers from trains as they pass by. You can see on the right is the platform with the stairs that are enclosed as they go up towards the bridge. The bridge is again crossing over the upper platform. And then to the left-hand side of the screen, the stairs and elevator tower as they come down. Next slide, please. Here is a rendering from the lower parking lot. This is basically the view you're going to have as you first enter that east parking lot coming off of Shrewsbury Street, where we're trying to create an iconic structure at this end that will complement the Union Station building without taking away views. It is a little bit more modern, but again, the use of the black painted steel, both for the elevator towers, the stair towers, the bridge, will carry into the platform and can create a continuity from the east end to the west end and create an identity for the east end that works well with the Union Station building itself. Next slide, please. This is a 3D plan view of the new connection through the existing Union Station building to the platform via the rotunda at the top of the screen. And you'll pass through area 5, which is the new platform access corridor. You can see item 10, which is the new ticketing kiosk off to the side. It is visible as you walk through, but it's out of the way, so it's not going to block passengers, as well as the stairs, item 1, and the new elevator, item 2, at the bottom of the screen. Next slide, please. This is a rendering looking from the rotunda, looking in towards our new access corridor, where we've been coordinating with the WRA, the Worcester Redevelopment Authority, who owns the building, on materials and finishes to make sure that our new space ties well with the existing building and the historic nature of those finishes and treatments, including taking the flooring, which we've kind of continued that terrazzo flooring in, as well as the wall materials and trim. Next slide, please. And this is a view as you enter into this new corridor space. Again, just showing the finishes, the wall finishes and trim, the floor finishes. We are in here putting in new wayfinding signage to make sure once passengers enter this space, it's easy for them to identify where they're going, what train to get on, and so forth. As well as you can see off to the right, the new ticketing kiosk area, which again is off to the side, but easily accessible from this corridor. So all passengers will easily be able to see where to find the ticketing as they board the trains. Next slide, please. At this point, I'll turn it over to Kevin to talk about environmental.
Thanks, Chris. Kevin Slattery, I'm an environmental specialist, been working on this project, and I have just one brief slide on environmental aspects. It's a very minimal impact project, so happy to report that to everyone. We've evaluated the project in light of federal and state regulations, and this project qualifies for categorical exclusion through Federal Transit Administration National Environmental Policy Act regulations. It's a very minimal impact project, as I mentioned. Probably the key aspects of the project setting is the historic historic nature of the property. The historic Union Station is involved with the project. We've evaluated and determined there's no adverse effect on historic resources. We have concurrence from the Worcester Historical Commission, and there's ongoing coordination to close that loop with Massachusetts Historical Commission. One key aspect of the project is soil management requirements. We've evaluated soils. Anytime you're working with railroad right-of-way soils, you can have some minor contamination. These soils are routine in this location. It's standard practice to deal with these right-of-way soils on the project. Some environmental improvements beyond the station and access is this project includes a stormwater management and treatment component. In the east end in the parking area, we're going to be adding stormwater management and water quality improvement devices, so there should be a net improvement. We also mentioned LED lighting, low energy consumption project by upgrading the lighting on the project. With that, I think the next slide is project schedule, and Eric's going to talk with you about that.
Thank you, Kevin. So I'll briefly go over the project schedule. I'm going to start with where we've been. The 30% submission was made in July of 2019. The 75% submission followed shortly thereafter in November of 2019. The 100% submission was originally slated for June of 2020, but we accelerated that schedule till April of 2020. So that has been made so far in our efforts to advance the design as quickly as possible. That sets us up for the bid phase to begin in August of 2020 and wrap up in October. I must note that the bid phase wrapping up in October is pending the allocation of construction funding later this year. The notice to proceed is expected for the contractor in November, and then we have a 2-year construction with the project completed in the fall of 2022. With that, I'd like to turn it back over to Chris.
Thanks, Eric. For construction phasing, we spent a lot of time working with the T to develop a plan that both allowed the contractor to perform their construction duties as quickly as possible, as well as maintaining operations and function of the station throughout the process, with minimal impacts to train service and to passengers. Next slide, please. With that, so we developed a 3-phase process here. So this is phase 1, approximate duration is about 4 months. During this phase, there would be minimal impacts to the passengers as they'll continue to board the train where they board it now via either the high-level platform or the low-level platform. And most of the work during this phase will be for the contractor to install a new temporary platform, which is item number 1, to the east end of the station. So that'll be a little bit east of the permanent platform. And this will allow for work in future phases to go unimpeded by train service. So it allows train service to continue without impacting the contractor's ability to do work as he moves forward. During this phase, starting with this phase, the contractor will be taking up approximately 26 spaces from the upper parking lot to use as a laydown area. So throughout the duration of construction, there will be a slight reduction in the number of parking spaces available at the east end. Next slide, please. During phase 2, this phase will have the biggest impact to passengers as all passengers will board the train at that new temporary platform at the east end. So passengers who currently park in the east parking lot, their travel times will be about the same, if not less. But the passengers who typically access the platform via Union Station building will still do so going up to the 2nd floor and as if they're going onto the platform. But instead of going onto the platform, they'll continue along the low-level platform or accessible walkway all the way to the east end to access the new temporary platform during this phase. So during this phase, the contractor will be building the west end of the platform and completing all of the work inside the Union Station building so that the west end of the platform can be used in the next phase. Next slide, please. So during phase 3, as I mentioned, the west end of the platform will be open in its finished condition with access through Union Station building, going through that new access corridor, coming up via the new elevator and new stairs at the west end of the platform. At the east end of the platform, we will be providing a temporary egress ramp to maintain egress capacity in the event something happens during construction. During this phase, the contractor will be completing all of the work at the east end of the platform, finishing the east end of the platform, the new elevators, stairs coming up from the platform, the new pedestrian bridge, the new stairs and elevators that make the connections to the parking lot, as well as the rest of the all of the parking lot paving improvements. One thing to note here is that during this phase, all of the accessible parking that was on the upper parking lot, the 8 spots, will be relocated to the Union Station parking garage, and the entire upper parking level will be used by the contractor as they perform the rest of their contractual duties. Next slide, please. This slide is talking about access between Union Station and Polar Park. Union Station, which is identified as Area B on the plan, and then Polar Park, which is Area C during the plan. Some typical pathways between the two locations identified with the red dot line and blue dot line 1 and 2. Typical walking times are approximately 10 minutes, and that'll remain for most of construction. During phase 2, when the temporary platform is in service, which is item A on the map, some slight additional walking times of 4 to 5 minutes will be needed, which is indicated with walking routes 1A and 2A. And this will add about, as I mentioned, 4 to 5 minutes. So total walking time will be approximately 15 minutes during this phase. We're still in discussions with the City of Worcester and WRA and WRTA to see if if they have plans to possibly have sort of a shuttle service during this phase, allow for passengers to be picked up in that east parking lot. Next slide, please. At this point, I guess I'll turn it back over to Joe to run the question and answering session.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Thank you to Chris, Kevin, Eric, and Maribel for taking us through this informative presentation. There's a lot of exciting things going on in Worcester, in addition to the improvements here at Worcester Union Station with Polar Park coming online in the near term, and be very exciting for everybody. I'm going to, before I ask for elected officials to make some comments, I'm going to go over the protocol again one more time for this virtual participation. As we know, the earlier meetings we had were in public places. We're hoping that at some point in the long term, we can, maybe when the ribbon cutting is, or hopefully much before that, we can all get together and celebrate together when we get this new station online. With regard to the protocols, please share only one question or comment at a time. And I think we only have one question in the Q&A typed in now. So now's the time to get on there if you want to type one in. To ask a question via phone, if you're on the telephone, dial *9, and I or one of the other moderators will call out the last 4 digits of your phone number and unmute your audio when it is your turn. Using the Q&A button, as I mentioned at the bottom of the screen, you can submit a typed question or comment at any point during the meeting. And if you want to ask a question live and you're attending by computer, you press the raise your hand button in the Q&A section or in the participant section. You raise your hand button to share your question and comment verbally. After you raise your hand, wait for the moderator to recognize and unmute you before speaking. After you share your question or comment, we'll lower your hand and you'll be muted again to allow the team to respond and provide opportunities for others to participate. Obviously, and we'll cover this again at the end, but you can always address the project through unionstation@mbta.com or visit www.mbta.com/unionstation for more information and to ask questions of the project going forward. So why don't we first move over to, we do have some elected officials that we know are here. Is State Senator Harriet Chandler available, and would you like to make a couple comments? Okay. I don't know. Joe was one of our moderators. Joe, have you got any track on whether State Senator Chandler wants to make any comments?
Sorry, I had seen her on here earlier.
Or she may have dropped off, as we can happen in Zoom calls. How about State Representative Hannah Kane?
Yep, I will allow her to talk. If she would like.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Hi, Hannah. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
I'm unable to see the presentation because I'm actually driving down to Baltimore right now with my oldest daughter to move her out of her dorm room. So I've listened to the presentation, and I have a member of my team taking some notes as well. So from what I've heard, I think it's great progress, and I'm excited by the time frame that you're talking about. So keep up the good work from where I'm sitting at the moment, and I will review the presentation in full when I can actually have a chance to look at the diagrams and renderings that you have.
Well, thank you, Representative Kane. I know that I've been in a lot of meetings with you in Metro West, where you've been a champion for projects just like this and this project in specific. So thank you so much for that. And if you have any questions of us directly after you are able to review the presentation, please reach out.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, how about Worcester City Council District 2, Candy F. Merrow Carlson? Any luck on there, Joe, with Ms. Merrow Carlson?
If Councilor Carlson would like to unmute to talk, I have allowed the talking.
Okay, so Counselor, if you're trying to talk, you may be muted. I don't know. We can ask the counselor to raise their hand if they have a question. We can go on to another counselor if they're available. How about Worcester City Council? And anybody at this point can raise their hand if they have a question. Worcester City Councilor.
We do have Senator Moore. Who I would like to talk
Councilor Merrow Carlson or Senator Moore?
Senator Moore.
Right.
Yep. Senator Moore, you've been, you're allowed to talk if you'd like to unmute.
Senator Moore, can you hear us? Well, why don't we go on to anybody can raise their hand. Let me see in the participants. We have one question. I'm going to go to a question here. Also, we had Worcester City Councilor Sarah Rivera, Saraya Rivera.
Oh, Senator Moore, are you there?
Senator Moore, can you hear me? I can see his, like a lot of Zoom meetings we've all been on with our coworkers and through our church services and everything else. I think I see that Senator Moore is available, but I don't know if he can.
Hello?
Hello. Is this Senator Michael Moore? Okay. So we cannot get the senator on right now. I see it's muted now, so we can try to, Senator Moore, if you can, we can unmute. All right. So how about Joe, can you try Worcester City Councilor District 4, Saraya Rivera?
Hi, I saw that you unmuted me, but I can't hear anything.
Okay, well, that could be part of the problem. Then go ahead. If you can't hear, then we can't do that then. All right, why don't we go to Q&A and we can ask everybody to raise their hands to share questions and participants. Can any of the participants raise their hand if they have any questions? We have one written question from a planner in Metro West that says, are there any other improvements planned on the Worcester line? Any projects underway now? Maribel, do you want to speak about what's going on?
Yes, I can answer to that since I'm involved with basically all the projects in the Worcester line. Right now, we're ongoing design for the upgrade of the 3 Newton stations, Arkundale, Newtonville, and West Newton. we're in the initial phases. We're expecting to reach probably 30% design for the station upgrades by September this year. The other thing, and it's good news, and it's very exciting that the Worcester third track and station improvements is in the queue to start working on the design. We're just in very early phases, but we have right now enough funding for this project to at least go to the 30% design and environmental and real estate submissions. So a lot of work going on in this line, which it's well overdue. So as part of the Worcester third line, we have 4 stations, upgraded stations, the 3 in Wesley and 1 in Natick.
Right, Natick Station I know is underway because we were helping out on that. Someone asked if we could go over the timeline again, how far ahead in schedule and how long each phase will last. So if we could maybe return to the schedule slide. And Eric, if you want to speak to this.
Sure. I can just go quickly because the important part probably for the people to know is, yeah, even though we have 100% and there's probably question about why is such a long lead time between the April 2020 that we have 100%. Still, April 2020 and the bid phase in August, it's all about funding because we have requested within our CIP process the funding for the construction of Worcester Station. We don't have final resolution and answer that this project is going to be funding until end of June. And so by the time we get the funding into grants to be able to take the project out for bid, for construction bidding, is going to be August 2020. So from this August, the bid phase, it's a long process. It's, go on advertisement, they have to bid. We will probably open bids by November and get an NTP for the construction contract. Again, it's 2 years construction, which is a very, very aggressive schedule where, we're going to be challenging the construction contract to finish this project. This project is really big and, and the main part that we always kept during these phases is to keep service, regular service schedules are not going to change. With
right.
the
So
only exception of we might have some few weekend outages, which are necessary. I cannot tell you exactly the number of weekend outages because we have to have the construction contract on board, but it's going to be few, and we're going to provide biasings for those cases.
So in summary for that we will have definitely the commuter service and regular railroad operations commuter service will be maintained throughout the project. There may be a weekend, a Saturday here or there. There will be plenty of notice to all commuters and to any abutters as to the impacts of that temporary shutdown. Obviously there would be alternative service provided, but we anticipate minimizing any shutdowns to a handful or less.
All right.
Very good. So we have another question in here. One of the questions was, I'm not sure if we know this one, but how the schedule compares to Polar Park. I think Polar Park is scheduled to be in construction through this in the near term and over into next year. But do we have anything on that? I don't know if anybody's met with the city on that one. Okay, hearing none. I think they're going to run relatively concurrently. I know that there was collaborative efforts with the city to make sure that the paths of travel that Chris covered earlier will allow for good walking path to get to Polar Park, provided we're having games in the near term, and that they'll also coordinate with local bus service. The RTA, the Worcester Regional Transportation Authority, also comes to this station, and the city service will service Polar Park as well.
So we will definitely coordinate with the construction to have minimum impacts. Also, we were very aware that very thoughtful of days of events. We don't want to, to affect the construction activities. We might have some certain restriction within the construction contract that if there are, big events, like we might have, to make sure the contractor is not going to block any area where, people need to access or exit. So yes, close coordination. I have to say WRA has been an excellent partner in our project. we are constantly communicating, and we're going to be put all our efforts not to have that much of impact. Granted, is always construction creates impact, and
Well, that's great. I'm going to take another shot at trying to connect Michael Moore. I don't know if he left and reconnected. One of our panelists had to do that to work. I know he has his hand raised. And Senator Moore, if you can hear me.
I can hear you. Thank you very much.
Hey, all right. Well, that's, we all know at these Zoom meetings, these things happen. So while we have you, let's let you speak.
I think I lost you again. Can you, if you shake your head?
We can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. I'm just curious as far as the capacity of passengers. Will this be able to handle more people going through the system there in Worcester?
In general, I would say you're going to have, with a center platform, you have the ability to service 2 train sets. So now you have one low-level platform that has an accessible end for cars. So you'll have a little bit more capacity by having more trains. But Maribel, you want to talk to that a little bit?
Yes, so definitely capacity improve, because we're talking about right now you're going to have 800 feet of high-level platform accessible to board trains. So the commuter trains has nine cars, so it's going to be easy, a fully accessible access through all the stores.
Okay.
Have to get in consideration though the capacity also brings the question of I cannot talk on base of the operational portion, because you might need different kind of train sets. But yes, definitely the infrastructure will be there to improve capacity.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
That falls
And
in
this
line, Senator, with the improvements we made online. That I know that we've they've instituted some expedited or straight through shuttle service from Worcester into the city, as well as Maribel already covered a lot of improvements on the line. There used to be a history on this line. I know Senator Chandler and others worked hard on reducing heat restrictions, and a big investment was made in track infrastructure, ties, and rail welding to improve that. Do you have any other questions, Senator Moore?
Yeah, the last one would just be if we're going to be able to increase capacity of passengers at the site, is parking availability going to be an issue, or are we increasing parking capacity also?
Okay. Our project doesn't include increasing parking availability. We've been having conversation. They still have enough capacity, not only in the MBTA parking lot, which is in the east side, but within the parking garage.
Okay.
So there are not, at this point, no major concerns about number of parkings.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, I don't see any other hands raised. Would any of the other, we have close to 50 attendees, and if any of the other attendees would like to ask a question, now is your opportunity.
Joe, we had another question in the Q&A.
Oh, we have another one in the written Q&A. Okay. Okay. It says, what are the plans for wayfinding signs in the station for bus connections, city streets, and attractions?
I'll go ahead and answer that. We've been working closely with the MBTA's wayfinding team, as well as the WRA, to put some new wayfinding signage both in our new area, as well as some new wayfinding signage throughout the building, which is what we're really coordinating with the WRA on, to make sure that the signage still meets the historic criteria and is well coordinated with the existing characteristics of that signage, but provides the latest styles and latest information to make sure it's clear as you pass through the station which way to go, whether you're going for the buses or whether you're going to the street, whether you're going for Uber and Lyft, so wherever you're going. So there will be new signage throughout the first floor of the Union Station building.
Okay. Any of the other attendees like to raise their hand and ask a question? Would any of the panelists like to volunteer anything more before we move towards wrapping up? Okay, well, thank you everybody for participation. Let me go to the last slide here and just remind everyone, because sometimes I think this went very well for a virtual meeting. I appreciate everybody's patience and participation. This is an exciting project. It's going to really be a benefit to the Worcester and to the MBTA transit commuter rail system and the Worcester line. If you have any questions at all, you can go to www.mbta.com/Union Station and send us an email at the project email, which is unionstation@mbta.com. All of these PowerPoints will be on those websites and available to you. I thank all the panelists and all the elected officials, and obviously, and most importantly, all of our customers and participants for joining us in today's meeting. Thank you very much, and enjoy the warm weather and the nice night.
Well, thank you very much. Looking forward to continue on this project, and stay safe.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye, everybody. Have a good night. Stay cool.